2019. What were some of the goals y'all were trying to reach, and what some that you feel like you accomplished during this year, Mayor?
I think a lot of it still revolves around the aspect of continuing the growth of downtown. I think we made some major fronts on that. We're also, are looking at a lot of different things in regards to our neighborhoods and recreation. So those three buckets were still big things for us this year.
Let's talk about downtown a little bit. Of course, the biggest thing is the hotel.
Yeah,
that's the biggest new construction project. But there's a lot of other things going on too. Where are we with the hotel? And then we'll talk about some of the other things.
Yeah, the hotel is a partnership between it's a new group, a developer out of Greenville, and the Paragon people here in town, and they formed a new partnership, and it's a home two suites. It's 80 plus rooms, meeting space. I would think that they will have a restaurant in the hotel. I don't know where we are in regards to that recruitment. I think that's still out there. With that, in that same block, we just approved or going forward with the Market McDuffie parking garage, which will be part of the hotel. It's 350 or so spots, 7 stories, and so that's going to have to go in connection with the hotel. So I guess the big thing would be is that the plans are that February of 2021 that will be in play.
Be here for you. Now that parking garage, there's still some potential plans for like a rooftop event kind of place.
It is. I think we are looking at if you've ever. We've had people over the years ask us if they could have an event on the Murray Street parking garage, and it's just not structurally built for that load of having people there. And
beautiful view, though.
Yeah, it is. If you've been up there, so this one in particular, sitting here looking at a picture of it conceptually, will be a place where it'd be a public space where one could go up and take a view of the city. And also we are designing it hopefully where maybe there could be a restaurant or some type of rooftop bar at some time too.
How important, I know you've done a lot of research and talked to a lot of people, how important is it for a downtown to have a hotel?
Well, I mean, it's I think it's very important. It gives that 24/7 vibrancy that all downtowns need. I think that Steve K and the Blakely Inn proved that you needed that vibe downtown. Those visitors, business people were staying during the week to support restaurants and retail. So Steve doing that, and we can never appreciate his leadership in stepping out there and doing that to prove. And when you start talking about occupancy rates and so forth, and so I think this hotel will. I think it kind of puts us in play with having a event center right across the street from the hotel. I think it somewhat puts us in play for small regional type of conventions with 50 to 100 people to be able to come into our downtown area, and just having people here during the course of the week to support retail and restaurants, and that's important.
Well, you mentioned that a lot more people are living downtown, and
yes.
With the way the plans are looking in the future, a whole lot more spaces for people to live downtown. What are still some pieces y'all are looking for to make living downtown more feasible and more pleasant?
Well, obviously, we have to make sure that the environment is a safe environment, and so we have. I don't know. Hopefully, you noticed more of a presence from our police department during the course of a given day at night on weekends. We have to keep the city clean, and so that entails picking up after the night before on Fridays and Saturdays, and so we have people out there. I think beautification is part of it. We are very interested. If you notice some of I think one thing that right around Christmas time, I don't know if you noticed that we're replacing all the globe street lights to white LED lights, and so even the brightness of the city has stood out over the last, and light makes people feel safer, and so we've got to continue to do that. We've got to continue to. Very proud of the economic development department. You start looking at the retail, the shops that have opened over the past year. So just recently across the street, women's retail, Tracy's store. I was in there this Christmas, and it's a neat little place too.
It's a challenge. I know it was even a long-term challenge for Greenville to try to get a grocer and a pharmacy and those kind of places to come back downtown. I guess that's a long-term kind of project.
It is. I think that depends on the pedestrian living the space down. I think our economic development folks are talking to groceries in regards to that footprint. I think the thing that I think is interesting is that some of the local developers, I mentioned Steve, but start naming names, I'll leave out.
Well, I think the people I was going to mention, the people I think about that seem to have really invested their own money and time in downtown are Steve Kay and Jeff Waters. And the Granger Nissan. Forgot his first name. Sorry.
Damon Granger, John Glenn, John Wright. And so those guys, but they've attracted other people from Columbia and Charlotte. So I think that will be the next evolution of downtown. I think the County Square project is a very big piece to that, and that brings more parking challenges and more aspects for surface parking or parking garages. We are feeling that pain too.
In the county, it seems like this is one of the best cooperative effort kind of things as y'all are looking at that downtown courthouse square, working with the city and county together. So and that's very important as this moves forward.
And we had a lot of cooperation with the county in regards to the hotel, the Palmetto building, this building across the street. So it can't be understated the cooperation between the city and the county in regards to the economic development of our county.
And you mentioned the city economic development. This year you really launched the Shop This Block.
Yes.
Sort of vision casting, and some little pieces of that are already in place.
Yeah.
And how important do you think that'll be moving towards, at least it's somewhat of a blueprint for some change?
It is. I think, the people who do this very well, speaking of Greenville and other cities, it allows us to and to talk to developers about here's what we think should go in this block or this block. And I think even the cool thing about it is that we had over 1,000 people participate in that. And so when you get people to participate and say, okay, this is what we think this corridor should look like, this is what, so it allows us to have a blueprint for people who are coming in to develop, or even people locally who are going to develop.
You mentioned recreation opportunities that seems to be a rising importance when people choosing where to live.
Yes.
And how are we moving? You're talking about some expansion. Tell me about some of the expansion. Also, the trails plan for the city to kind of connect everything.
Well, I think people in 2020 will see the first another piece of that. I'm going to talk about two, but I'm going to talk about the extension of the Lindley Park Trail and the completion of phase 2 of our recreation fields, and basically trying to we'll do 2 more ball fields on the back side of our existing ball fields at the rec center. Take those ball fields in Lindley Park out of play, and have that as a bigger green space. But the trail itself will start developing through Lindley Park, through the upper end of Lindley Park, past the rec center, and down through B. Thompson Park. And so we are just very close to getting some environmental, some EPA clearance on, because that's going to follow Whitney Creek. And so I think people will see that happening in 2020. And it just connects the bigger plan. Our bigger bike and pedestrian plan encompasses throughout the city. And I think that would be the first piece of that. The second one, I think, is through the Anderson Area Transportation Committee, just the extension of the East-West Parkway to the Civic Center and to ANMED's walking track. So in theory, you could park at ANMED and bike, run, walk from ANMED to the Civic Center. And so that kind of extends that probably about, if I'm not mistaken, I think they've estimated to be, 7.5 to 8 miles in that regard. So that's exciting. I see more and more people using that. That was a great project. We had a lot of resistance, but people who even resisted that project now are saying it's probably the better thing, one of the best things that the Transportation Committee did.
And eventually, all the tracks will connect, right? I mean, somewhere
That's
along the term.
that's
the big plan.
That's the big plan. And I think the difference between, and I talk to people about this a lot. It connects our city and our community. It connects AU. It connects ANMED. It connects, and so it's not a rural trail. It's a trail in the heart of the city.
You mentioned the rec center too. Bobby Bevel and his crew over there have really done a good job developing that, and it seems to, the use of that facility seems to have just grown and grown and grown.
It is, and I think eventually that center will be expanded. Probably not this year, but hindsight being 2020, is at its max right now. Probably there are plans to, we conceptually have looked at plans to basically double that space, and it won't happen this year, but in 2020. But those would be some of the plans that would be after the expansion of the ball fields.
As the city continues to grow, it looks like the next census you're probably going to see some more growth and all. What are some of the other long-term plans you're looking at?
Well, I mean, again, we have a lot of building, and we have some residents off of Blakely and Glenwood, so that's some housing developments. We have a couple other plans, I think, for more development of houses in the city. I think the city will expand. We are a city of about 30,000. We got 50,000 people sitting right on top of us. So the metro area is about 80,000. It's about 85,000 people, and so there are 1.4 million people in the upstate region, and that will continue to grow. And we talk about this a lot internally. We want Anderson to be Anderson. We don't want it to be a Greenville or Spartanburg. We want to keep our uniqueness and try to control that aspect of growth too.
And one of the things y'all done with the city is try to help businesses down here kind of refresh their storefronts and do some other
Sure.
things.
Yeah. The economic, we have some grants that right at $100,000 that we give out in regards to grants, facade improvements, interior improvements. So that's important. The aspect of the million cups that the ED puts on that are helping small businesses get us as far as business plans and preparing. I think you'll see more during the course of this year. You will see our economic development folks and people within the city, community development, to be more active in helping businesses incubate and birth into businesses downtown.
And people, I know this is a challenge that all government is facing, but getting citizens involved is always a challenge. I know at the meetings, you don't see a big crowd at county or city council meetings. What can we do to get our folks more involved, do you think?
You know, that's a struggle in local government, state government, national government, getting people involved. You know, you usually get people involved when you start talking about zoning and neighborhoods, and that tends to bring people out because it's where they live. I get that. So I don't know. I mean, we try to do a lot of things, and I think everybody does. Social media, we have a presence on all the major social media aspects and trying to get information out. I think we have this. I'll do a plug for. We have a app where citizens can. I think it's called Click Fit. But you can download the app if you see something that needs repaired, a light out, a sidewalk repaired, or something that we need to do. So just getting, I mean, in this day and age, you have to have that aspect of mobile apps and just reaching people in different ways. No, again, I think the hotel is a game changer. I'm excited about our council and our management team. We are from a policy making point. And my other 8 people who help me do this, council members. I mean, we do a good job of setting policy, and our city manager and his team, they are carrying out that policy. It's tough when you have a lot of big projects coming on at one time to not let government slow it down, and so we're trying to make sure that we stay on top of things. And then you start talking about making sure that you're financially sound too. We are very conscious that the economy, we had a good year last year, our fiscal year, but at some point the economy will slow down. And so we've got to be very conscious of all of that. I think the whole aspect of our community, we have a university that's growing and thriving, and the announcement of football at AU is a very big deal.
That should be a real, I mean, it's right here in the city. You're going to have a football team.
Yeah. And and I think you look at what they've done over the past more than a decade now, and you see their students. I would say a decade ago we didn't see a lot of AU students downtown, and now we see more and more of them downtown. They're the biggest private university college in the whole state, and so I read once that. With a university, after 200 years, in existence, you just kind of get out of the way and let them do their thing. And even though they've only been in existence 100 or so years, they're doing great things there. I think we have an advantage with the university. We have an advantage with our healthcare system that's in our community. It's still a community hospital. Is strong financially, and we mentioned this before. I mean, our county partners are very strong and doing some good things. Our local delegation helps us, more so than we see other 46 counties in the state where the local delegation is not quite engaged as ours is. So that's a plus too.
And if somebody's watching, and it's amazing when people watch these, they're from all over the place.
Yep.
And they've never visited Anderson. What would you tell them? Why would they want to visit Anderson? Check us out. Maybe it's a place to live.
We was talking to a lady in my business the other day, and her and her son, and she moved here from Maine. and maybe the children were living in Atlanta and Charlotte, and her son had went to Clemson, and he just maybe she lost her father, that he lost her father and her husband, and he just said that he knew that Anderson would be just right for her. And I said, why? She said, just the size. They lived on water in Maine, and so the lake was a big attraction. And so, we're again, the four climate. We typically get 4 seasons. I know we've kind of been skipping between hot and cold here lately, but we do have a fall and a spring. But it's just and the other thing was, this lady was, she was 2 hours from Atlanta, 2 hours from Charlotte. She can get to the coast in 3.5 hours. She can get to the mountains in an hour and a half. And so we're right smack in the middle of a very sweet spot. And Anderson is big enough to have a good quality of life and a lot of opportunities, but it's not big enough right now to get lost in.
And since you mentioned that, and since we're looking to the future, how important would that high-speed rail having a stop in South Anderson be to our growth in the future?
Oh yeah, it'd be great. Transportation in general is a challenge for our community with people moving in. We talk about that a lot, even in our city, and looking at the electric city transportation. But of the 3 routes, to have that high-speed rail to have a stop here off of 85, and to me the 85 corridor, that makes sense if you traveled and been on trains. They pretty much parallel major interstates, and so I think that would be huge for us.
Especially a boost for the south side of town.
Oh, no doubt.
Because we're starting to see some development down there now.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Exactly right. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the best way for people to follow what's going on in the city is probably social media.
Yeah. Facebook. Yeah. We have. I mean, our they do a great job in our IT department with just our internal website. Then you have a separate downtown website, and with Facebook and Twitter and those media outlets too. So that's how we're kind of doing it. I've noticed even the pictures here lately of the just following the ice rink this year. It seems like there's been a lot of traffic on that.
And good weather this year for
good weather. Hopefully, I know we need rain,
right,
but we need it to stop just for a little bit so we can get the hotel going and the parking garage going too.